Sergeant Jake Mitchell had seen a lot of strange things since humanity joined the Galactic Council, but nothing prepared him for what he witnessed that day on Aquilise Prime. The water world was beautiful, with its floating crystal buildings and endless oceans that stretched beyond the horizon. Today it hosted the annual Galactic Summit, where species from across the stars gathered to discuss trade, peace treaties, and diplomatic relations. Jake stood in the grand ceremonial hall alongside other human soldiers, their dress uniforms crisp and formal. The hall itself was massive, with walls made of transparent material that showed the ocean depths below. Hundreds of alien dignitaries filled the space. Some walked on two legs like humans, others floated, and some slithered across the polished floor. Their translator devices created a constant buzz of overlapping conversations in dozens of languages. But Jake's attention locked onto the entrance as Princess Kira made her appearance. The Thalorian royal was tall and elegant, her skin shimmering with an otherworldly blue glow. She wore flowing robes that seemed to move like water, and her people bowed as she passed. Behind her, servants struggled with something heavy, an enormous metal cage. Inside that cage was a lion. Jake's heart stopped. A real lion. From Earth. Its golden fur was dirty and matted, nothing like the proud animals he'd seen in documentaries back home. The magnificent creature paced back and forth in the cramped space, its muscles tense with stress. Even from across the hall, Jake could see the sadness in those amber eyes. "That's Titan," Lieutenant Amy Chin whispered beside him. She was part of the intelligence unit tracking illegal wildlife smuggling. "We've been trying to locate him for months. Someone kidnapped him from a conservation program in Kenya 3 years ago. Sold him on the black market to the highest bidder." Jake felt anger rising in his chest. 3 years. This beautiful animal had been trapped in a cage for 3 years, stolen from his home, displayed like some kind of trophy. His hands clenched into fists. Princess Kira raised her hand and the hall fell silent. Her voice was musical but cold, like wind chimes made of ice. The translator on Jake's collar converted her words into English. "Behold, a creature from the death world called Earth. This predator once ruled vast territories. Now it exists for my entertainment, proof of my family's wealth and reach." Titan roared. The sound echoed through the hall, primal and powerful. Several alien diplomats jumped back in fear. The princess's pleasant expression vanished, replaced by irritation. "Silence that noise," she commanded her guards. The guards approached the cage with shock sticks, but Titan only roared louder. He threw himself against the bars, making the whole cage shake. This wasn't just noise. This was rage. This was a desperate cry for freedom from a creature that had been broken down piece by piece. Princess Kira's face twisted with disgust. "Useless creature. It disrupts my moment." She waved her hand dismissively. "Throw it in the pool. I'm done with this defective animal." For a moment, nobody moved. Surely she didn't mean it. Surely this was some kind of test or ritual that humans didn't understand yet. But then the guards lifted the cage. The heavy metal groaned under Titan's weight. They carried it toward the ceremonial pool in the center of the hall, a sacred body of water used for blessing new alliances and peace treaties. "Wait, you can't." Jake started to speak, but they'd already thrown it in. The cage hit the water with a massive splash. Water exploded upward, soaking the nearest dignitaries. The cage was heavy, built to contain a powerful predator, and it sank fast. Through the clear water, Jake watched it drop toward the bottom, watched Titan thrash and panic as water rushed in through the bars. He didn't think about protocol. He didn't think about consequences or diplomatic incidents or the fact that he was wearing his formal dress uniform. He just saw a living creature drowning, and every instinct in his human body screamed at him to help. "Mitchell, no." Amy shouted, but Jake was already running. He hit the edge of the pool at full sprint and dove. The water was cold, shocking against his skin. His uniform immediately became heavy, trying to drag him down, but he kicked hard, swimming toward the sinking cage with everything he had. Through the churning bubbles, he could see Titan inside, his massive paws scraping at the bars. The lion's eyes were wide with terror, his mouth open in a silent scream. Water was filling the cage fast. In seconds, the lion would be completely submerged. Jake's lungs already burned. The cage was deeper than he'd thought, and his uniform felt like it weighed 100 pounds. His vision started to blur at the edges. But he kept swimming, kept pushing. Because that was what humans did. They didn't stand by and watch innocent creatures die, no matter what species they came from. His fingers finally touched the cold metal of the cage. Titan saw him and went wild, thrashing even harder. "Easy, buddy," Jake thought. "I'm trying to help you." The lock was alien technology, nothing like anything on Earth. Jake pulled at it desperately, his fingers fumbling. Water rushed into his own mouth as he tried to hold his breath. Titan's claws scraped against the bars, and Jake could see the panic in those golden eyes, the same eyes that had once watched over African grasslands, that should have been watching over cubs, not staring at death in a foreign world's water. Come on, come on. The lock clicked. The door swung open. Jake grabbed Titan by the thick fur around his neck and kicked toward the surface. The lion was heavy, so heavy, and every muscle in Jake's body screamed in protest. His vision was going dark. They weren't going to make it. They were both going to drown. No, not happening. Jake kicked harder. He refused to give up. Not on himself, and definitely not on this animal who'd already suffered so much. They broke the surface together. Jake gasped for air, choking and coughing. Titan did the same, his huge body shaking as he tried to breathe. His claws dug into Jake's shoulder, tearing through the uniform and into skin. The pain was sharp and immediate, but Jake just held on tighter, swimming them both toward the pool's edge. "Help!" someone shouted. 2 human marines jumped in and helped pull them out. Titan collapsed on the marble floor, water pouring from his fur. His sides heaved as he coughed up water, his whole body trembling. Jake fell to his knees beside him, ignoring the blood streaming down his arm from the claw marks. "Easy boy," Jake whispered, his hand hovering over Titan's head. "You're safe now. I've got you." Titan's amber eyes found his. In that moment something passed between them. Recognition. Gratitude. A connection that crossed the boundaries of species. The hall erupted into chaos around them. Aliens were shouting in a dozen languages. Translators struggled to keep up with the overlapping voices. "Arrest that human." Princess Kira's voice cut through the noise like a knife. She pointed at Jake with one long finger. "He has stolen property of the Thalorian Empire. I demand justice." Commander Scott Davis pushed through the crowd of confused aliens. He was a veteran of the human military, a man who'd seen combat on 3 different worlds. Right now he looked torn between pride and absolute frustration. "Sergeant Mitchell," he said, his voice carefully controlled. "What the hell were you thinking?" Jake looked up at him, water still dripping from his hair. "Couldn't let him drown, sir. He's from Earth. He's one of ours." Princess Kira glided forward, her beautiful robes somehow still dry and perfect. "That animal is registered property of my family. I demand its immediate return and severe punishment for this human's theft." Ambassador Jennifer Walsh stepped between them. She was Earth's chief diplomat, a woman who'd negotiated treaties with species that barely understood what humans were. "With all due respect, Princess Kira, you gave an order to destroy the animal. Under galactic salvage law, property that is abandoned or ordered destroyed can be claimed by whoever recovers it." "Abandoned?" The princess's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. "I was disposing of defective property. That is not abandonment." "You ordered it killed," Jennifer said calmly. "You no longer have any legal claim to it. Sergeant Mitchell saved this creature's life. Under our laws and galactic law, Titan now belongs to him." The princess's eyes narrowed to slits. For a long moment she just stared at Jake and the lion. Then she smiled, but it wasn't a nice smile. "Very well, Ambassador. Let the human keep his prize. But remember my words when that beast tears him apart. Humans always think they can control things they don't understand. You cannot bond with a predator through sentiment alone." She turned and swept from the hall, her servants and guards following behind her. The other alien diplomats began filing out as well, their conversations now focused entirely on the dramatic scene they just witnessed. Jake barely noticed them leaving. His attention was on Titan, who was breathing more steadily now. The lion's eyes were still on him, watching, studying the strange creature who'd jumped into water to save him. "Guess you're coming home with me," Jake said softly, reaching out slowly to touch Titan's massive head. The lion didn't pull away. Didn't growl. He just kept watching, his tail giving a small twitch. Commander Davis sighed heavily. "Mitchell, do you have any idea what you've just done? You're now personally responsible for 450 pounds of apex predator. One of the most dangerous animals from Earth. I really hope you know what you're doing." Jake gently ran his hand over Titan's wet fur, feeling the powerful muscles beneath. The lion's breathing was finally returning to normal. "Honestly, sir? I have no idea. But I couldn't just stand there and watch him die." The commander studied them both for a moment, then shook his head. "That's the most human thing I've ever heard. Get yourself and that lion to medical. You're both bleeding." As medics rushed over with equipment, Jake stayed close to Titan. The lion was still watching him with those intelligent eyes. There was pain there and fear and confusion. But there was also something else. Something that looked like hope. "We're going to figure this out together," Jake promised quietly. "No more cages. No more drowning. You're free now, buddy. I swear it." Titan's tail twitched again, and for just a second Jake could have sworn the big cat understood every word. 3 weeks had crawled by since Jake pulled Titan from that ceremonial pool. The human military compound on Aquilise Prime wasn't exactly designed for keeping large predators, but they'd done their best. One of the old storage warehouses had been cleared out and converted into something that almost looked like home for a lion. They'd brought in dirt, real earth dirt, shipped at ridiculous cost across the stars. They'd installed artificial trees with wide branches for shade. They'd even created a small water feature, though Jake noticed Titan avoided it. Couldn't blame him after what happened. It wasn't the African savanna. It wasn't the wide open grasslands where Titan should have been living. But it was a hell of a lot better than a cage. Every single day Jake followed the same routine. He'd finish his morning duties, grab some supplies and head to the warehouse. He'd sit down on the ground, cross-legged, about 15 feet away from wherever Titan had chosen to rest. And he'd just be there. Sometimes Jake read his daily reports out loud. The words didn't matter. It was the sound of his voice that counted, low and steady and calm. Sometimes he talked about home. About growing up in Montana, where the sky stretched forever and you could ride for hours without seeing another person. He told Titan about his sister's ranch, about the horses she raised, about how she always said animals could sense the truth in people. "She'd like you," Jake said one afternoon, watching Titan rest under the artificial tree. "She's got this way with animals. Never met a creature she couldn't befriend." Titan's ear flicked toward him. The lion was always watching, always alert. Those amber eyes tracked Jake's every movement, studying him like Jake was the most interesting puzzle in the universe. "You know what the guys are saying?" Jake continued, reaching into his pack. "They've got a betting pool going. 3,000 credits now on when you're going to eat me." He pulled out a ration pack, the expensive kind that contained real beef from Earth. "Beth told me about it yesterday. She thought I should know." Titan's other ear twitched. Both ears forward now, attention fully locked on Jake. "I told her they were all being stupid." Jake carefully unwrapped the meat. The smell hit the air immediately and he saw Titan's nostrils flare. "You're not going to eat me, are you, buddy?" He tossed the meat gently. It landed about 5 feet away from Titan, right in that neutral zone between them. The lion stared at the food. Then his eyes shifted back to Jake. Back to the meat. Back to Jake. The internal debate was almost visible. Was this a trick? Was this human trying to trap him somehow? For a long moment nothing happened. The only sound was the hum of the compound's life support systems and the distant voices of soldiers outside. Then Titan stood up. Slowly. Deliberately. Each paw placed carefully as he moved toward the meat. He picked it up in his jaws, his eyes never once leaving Jake's face. Even while chewing he watched. "That's right," Jake said softly, keeping his voice level even though his heart was pounding. "I'm the good guy. I'm the one who jumped in that water for you. Remember?" Titan swallowed the meat. Then he did something that made Jake's breath catch. Instead of retreating back to his spot under the tree, the lion took 3 more steps forward and lay down. Now he was only 8 feet away. Close enough that Jake could count the whiskers on his face. Close enough to see the old scars hidden in his fur, probably from his years in captivity. "Well," Jake whispered, hardly daring to move. "That's progress." The breakthrough came in week 6. Jake had been patient, never pushing, never rushing. He'd show up every day, talk every day, offer food every day. And slowly, gradually, Titan's distrust melted away like ice in the sun. The day Titan first ate directly from Jake's hand, Jake thought his heart might explode from his chest. The lion approached carefully, sniffed the meat Jake held out, then gently took it with his teeth. His rough tongue brushed against Jake's palm. It tickled. "Good boy," Jake breathed. "You're such a good boy." By week 8 everything had changed. Titan didn't just tolerate Jake's presence anymore. He sought it out. When Jake entered the warehouse, Titan would stand and walk over, pressing his massive head against Jake's chest in greeting. When Jake moved around the compound, Titan followed like a giant tawny shadow. The other soldiers had stopped making jokes. Now they just stared in wonder. "This shouldn't be possible," Dr. Rachel Moore said one afternoon. She was the xenobiologist assigned to monitor Titan's health and behavior. She stood at the fence surrounding the exercise yard, watching Jake and Titan play tug-of-war with a thick rope. "Everything we know about trauma in captive animals says he should still be terrified, aggressive, or shut down completely. Jake planted his feet and pulled on the rope, but Titan was stronger. The lion's tail swished playfully as he tugged back. Maybe what we know is wrong, Jake grunted, then deliberately let go of the rope. Titan stumbled backward with his prize, then pranced around the yard like he'd won the greatest victory in history. If lions could smile, Jake was sure Titan would be grinning. He trusts you, Rachel said, shaking her head in amazement. Completely trusts you. That's not supposed to happen this fast. Trust is earned, Jake said simply. I showed him I wouldn't hurt him. Showed him every single day. Beth walked up to the fence carrying her tablet, her expression worried. Jake, you need to see this. Those videos of you and Titan? They've gone viral on the human networks. Millions of views. Jake watched Titan roll in the dirt like an oversized house cat, all four paws in the air. That's good, right? Shows people we're not hurting him. It's spreading beyond human networks now, Beth continued. Alien species are sharing it, analyzing it, and the Thalorians are losing their minds. Princess Kira is giving interviews calling you a chaos agent. She's claiming humans use secret mind control technology on animals. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. We know that. But most alien species don't understand bonding like we do. They don't have pets. They don't form emotional connections with other species. To them, what you're doing looks like magic or manipulation. Titan trotted back over, the rope still in his mouth. He dropped it at Jake's feet and made a sound deep in his chest. Not quite a growl, not quite a purr. More like a rumble of contentment. Jake reached down and scratched behind the lion's ears, right in that spot that made Titan lean into his hand with his eyes half closed in pleasure. Does this look like mind control? Jake asked. Beth smiled despite her concerns. No. It looks like you made a very large, very dangerous friend. He's not dangerous, Jake said, running his hand down Titan's mane. Not to me. Not to anyone who doesn't threaten him. He's just been hurt and scared for so long, he forgot what it was like to feel safe. Titan pressed closer, his massive body warm against Jake's leg. Outside the fence, other soldiers had gathered to watch, their expressions a mix of awe and disbelief. Let the princess say whatever she wants, Jake added quietly. Titan's free now. And nobody is ever putting him in a cage again. The summons to Commander Davis's office came on a Tuesday morning. Jake knew it was serious because the commander's assistant had that particular look on her face, the one that said someone was about to have a very bad day. He walked through the corridors of the compound with Titan padding beside him, as usual. The lion had become such a common sight that most soldiers barely glanced their way anymore. Wait here, buddy, Jake said outside the commander's door. Titan settled onto his haunches, his tail wrapping neatly around his paws. Inside the office, Commander Davis stood by the window, looking out at the alien skyline of Aquilise Prime. He didn't turn around when Jake entered. Sergeant Mitchell, reporting as ordered, sir. Shut the door, Jake. That wasn't good. The commander only used first names when he was about to deliver news he knew you wouldn't like. Jake closed the door and stood at attention. You're being deployed, Davis said, finally turning around. Outpost Sierra. It's on Terminus, a contested moon in the border territories. Active combat zone. Pirates, insurgents, the whole mess. You leave in 3 days. Jake's stomach dropped, but he kept his face neutral. Understood, sir. Titan stays here. No, sir. The words were out before Jake could stop them. Commander Davis's expression hardened, his jaw setting in that stubborn way that meant an argument was coming. That wasn't a request, Sergeant. That was an order. With respect, sir, I'm not going without him. Jake kept his voice steady even though his heart was hammering. He's my responsibility. You made that very clear on day one when you told me I was personally responsible for him. I'm not abandoning him now. This isn't about abandonment, Mitchell. Use your head. Davis moved away from the window, his hands clasped behind his back. We're talking about tactical reality here. You cannot bring a 450-pound lion to a combat outpost. It's insane. Why not? Jake met his commander's gaze without flinching. He's stronger than any military working dog we've got. His senses are better than our motion scanners. He can hear things our equipment misses. And he's loyal, sir. Completely loyal. He's an animal, Mitchell. An animal. He's my partner, sir. The silence that followed was thick enough to cut with a knife. Commander Davis stared at Jake and Jake stared right back. Neither man moved. The clock on the wall ticked away the seconds. 30 seconds. A minute. 2 minutes. 3. Finally, Commander Davis pinched the bridge of his nose and let out a long, tired sigh. If that cat causes one single incident, if he hurts anyone, if he creates one diplomatic problem, it's all on you. Court-martial. Dishonorable discharge. Prison time. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yes, sir. I understand completely. I hope you do, Jake. I really hope you do. The commander sat down heavily at his desk. Get out of here. And start preparing that lion for combat conditions. You've got 3 days. Thank you, sir. You won't regret this. I already regret it, Davis muttered. 3 days later, Jake and Titan boarded a military transport heading for Terminus. The moon was at the edge of human-controlled space, right where civilization ended and chaos began. Pirates used it as a staging ground. Smugglers traded illegal goods in its underground markets. And human peacekeeping forces tried desperately to maintain some kind of order. The transport landed at Outpost Sierra in the middle of the afternoon. The base was small, functional, and built like a fortress. Concrete walls, automated gun turrets, sensor arrays scanning constantly for threats. About 200 soldiers called this place home. When the transport's ramp lowered and Jake walked out with Titan beside him, every single person on the landing pad stopped what they were doing and stared. You have got to be kidding me, Jake heard someone mutter. A young corporal with red hair and freckles stood near a supply crate, his mouth hanging open. They actually sent us a circus act? Careful, Corporal, Jake said calmly. Titan doesn't like being called a circus act. The corporal's face went pale. Titan, for his part, simply sat down and began cleaning his paw, completely ignoring the attention. Captain Nicole Grant approached from the main building. She was in her 40s, with short gray hair and the kind of hard eyes that said she'd seen plenty of combat. Her arms were crossed and she didn't look impressed. So you're Mitchell, she said, stopping a few feet away. And that's the famous Titan. Yes, ma'am. The captain walked slowly around them, studying Titan from every angle. The lion watched her with calm interest but didn't move. His tail flicked once, twice. I've seen the reports, Grant said. I've watched the videos that half the galaxy is obsessing over. I've read the psychological evaluations and the tactical assessments. And I'll be completely honest with you, Sergeant. I think this is the most insane thing I've ever seen in 30 years of military service. Jake said nothing. There wasn't much he could say to that. But, Grant continued, command approved it. So here we are. You and your oversized cat. She stopped directly in front of Jake. Let me make one thing crystal clear. Titan steps out of line once, hurts anyone, causes any kind of problem, and he's confined to quarters. If he becomes a liability, he gets shipped back to Aquilise Prime. Are we clear? Crystal clear, ma'am? Good. Grant's expression softened just slightly. I saw what he did in those videos. How he acts around you. It's remarkable, I'll give you that. But this isn't a peaceful compound on a water world. This is a war zone. Things get ugly out here. I need to know you can both handle it. We can handle it, ma'am. We'll see. She gestured toward the main building. Get yourself settled. Briefing in 20 minutes. We've got movement in Sector 7. Possible insurgent activity. Unknown numbers, unknown intentions. Welcome to Outpost Sierra, Mitchell. Try not to get eaten by your own lion. She walked away, leaving Jake and Titan standing on the landing pad. The other soldiers were still staring, some nervous, some curious, some openly skeptical. Jake knelt down beside Titan and scratched behind his ears. Well, buddy, he said quietly, looks like we've got something to prove. You ready for this? Titan turned his head and pressed it against Jake's chest, that familiar gesture of trust and affection. His rumble vibrated through Jake's uniform. Yeah, Jake said, smiling. Me too. Let's show them what we can do. 20 minutes later, Jake sat in the briefing room with 15 other soldiers while Captain Grant outlined the situation. There were reports of armed groups gathering in the rocky badlands of Sector 7. Possible pirate activity. Possible smugglers. Possibly nothing at all, just nervous sensors picking up wildlife. But on Terminus you didn't take chances. Titan lay quietly at Jake's feet, his presence drawing constant glances from the other soldiers. Nobody said anything, but Jake could feel the doubt in the room. Could feel them wondering if he and his lion would be assets or liabilities. Soon enough they'd find out. The first sign of trouble came through official diplomatic channels. Jake was in the training yard with Titan, running through their usual exercises, when Captain Grant's assistant found him. Her face was pale and she wouldn't meet his eyes. Captain wants to see you. No. Her office. Jake's stomach dropped. He knew that tone. Something bad was coming. Captain Grant was standing behind her desk when Jake entered, a holographic document floating in the air between them. The image showed the ornate seal of the Thalorian Empire, all flowing lines and alien symbols that Jake had come to recognize. "We have a problem," Grant said without preamble. "A big one." She flicked the document toward him and Jake began reading. Each line felt like a punch to the gut. Princess Kira was demanding Titan's return. She claimed that ancient Thalorian property laws superseded galactic salvage law. She argued that the lion had been stolen, not rescued. And if Earth refused to comply, the Thalorian Empire would impose economic sanctions on 3 human colony worlds. Jake's hands clenched into fists. "They can't do this." "They can. And they are." Grant's voice was heavy with frustration. "I've been on calls with Command all morning. The colonies she's threatening? New Portland, Horizon Station and Terra Nova. Combined population of 8 million people. They depend on Thalorian trade routes for medical supplies, food shipments and technology. So they're holding millions of people hostage over one lion? Over their pride," Grant corrected. "Princess Kira can't stand the humiliation. Every time someone across the galaxy watches you and Titan together, it reminds them that she threw him away like garbage. The Thalorian Empire's reputation is built on strength and superiority. Your bond with Titan makes them look cruel and foolish." Jake felt his world starting to tilt sideways. Command is actually considering this? Grant's silence was answer enough. 3 colonies, Jake. Millions of people. Supply lines cut off. Medical shipments stopped. Children who need medicine. Elderly people who need care. She paused. "Against one animal." "He's not just an animal." Jake's voice came out harder than he intended. "He's a living being who's already been tortured and abused. I can't just hand him back to them." "I know that. You know that. But politicians are weighing numbers on a spreadsheet. They're calculating trade values and supply routes. They're not thinking about what's right. They're thinking about what keeps the most people alive." Grant pulled up another document. "You have 30 days. They want you to personally deliver Titan to the Thalorian embassy on Aquilise Prime for what they're calling repatriation. It's all very official and legal sounding. And if I refuse?" The captain's expression grew even more grim. "Court-martial. Military prison. Earth won't go to war over this, Jake. The government won't risk open conflict with the Thalorian Empire because one soldier won't follow orders." Jake felt like the floor had disappeared beneath his feet. 30 days. He had 30 days before they'd force him to give Titan back to the people who tried to drown him. Back to a cage. Back to abuse and neglect. There has to be another way. If there is, I haven't found it. And neither has anyone else. Grant sat down heavily. "I'm sorry, Jake. I really am. But start preparing yourself. In 30 days, one way or another, this ends." 20 days crawled by like years. Jake went through his duties in a fog, his mind constantly searching for some solution, some escape route that didn't exist. Titan sensed something was wrong. The lion stayed closer than usual, pressing against Jake's leg, watching him with those intelligent amber eyes. The other soldiers at Outpost Sierra knew something was up. Word had spread about the ultimatum. Some of them avoided Jake, not knowing what to say. Others offered quiet support, a hand on the shoulder, a nod of understanding. Then on day 20, everything went to hell. The attack came just after midnight. No warning. No intel. Just sudden, overwhelming violence. The first explosion shook Jake out of his bunk. Alarms screamed through the base. Emergency lights painted everything blood red. "All hands, battle stations." Captain Grant's voice blasted through the comm system. "This is not a drill. We are under attack. I repeat, this is not a drill." Jake grabbed his rifle and body armor. Titan was already on his feet, hackles raised, a growl rumbling deep in his chest. They ran together through corridors filling with soldiers, everyone moving to their assigned positions. Outside, the night sky was on fire. Ships, dozens of them, poured out of jump space. Plasma fire rained down from orbit, explosions blooming across the base's defensive perimeter. Through the chaos, Jake could see ground forces storming the outer walls, hundreds of them, maybe thousands. "They're everywhere." Corporal Tommy Reed shouted from behind a barricade, his rifle spitting fire at the advancing enemy. Where the hell did they get this kind of firepower? Jake dove into cover beside him, Titan crouching low at his side. This wasn't some ragtag pirate raid. This was a full military assault, coordinated and professional. The attackers had heavy weapons, armored vehicles, air support. This was an army. Through the smoke and noise, Jake accessed the tactical network on his helmet display, trying to make sense of the attack. He cycled through enemy communications channels, and what he heard made his blood run cold. The chatter was encrypted but not well enough. And buried in the tactical coordination he heard command codes. Military authorization codes. Thalorian military authorization codes. Captain Grant. Jake shouted into his comm, "I'm picking up encrypted chatter. Command codes. Thalorian command codes in the enemy communications." There was a pause, then Grant's voice came back, tight with fury and understanding. "Say again, Mitchell. Are you certain?" "Positive, ma'am. These aren't pirates. Someone hired them. Someone with access to Thalorian military networks." The pieces fell into place with horrible clarity. Princess Kira hadn't been waiting for 30 days to expire. She decided to solve her problem permanently. If Jake and Titan died in a pirate attack on a border outpost, there'd be no embarrassing videos. No humiliating reminders. Just unfortunate casualties of war. That murderous... Grant's voice cut off as another explosion rocked the base. "All units, hold your positions. They want us dead, people. Show them what humans do when someone tries to kill us." Beside Jake, Titan's roar cut through the battle noise. The lion's eyes were locked on the advancing enemy, every muscle coiled and ready. Jake checked his ammunition and looked at his companion. "Looks like she wants us both gone, buddy. You ready to disappoint her?" Titan's answering growl sounded almost like agreement. The real battle was just beginning. The battle for Outpost Sierra lasted 6 brutal hours. When the smoke finally cleared and the last enemy retreated, Jake was covered in dust and blood, some his own, most not. Titan limped beside him, plasma burns across his flank, but his eyes were still sharp and alert. They'd survived. Barely. But the Real explosion came in the hours after the fighting stopped. Jake's helmet camera had been recording the entire time. Every command he'd issued, every tactical scan he'd run, every piece of intercepted communication. All of it was automatically uploaded to military servers as part of standard combat protocol, including the Thalorian military command codes buried in the enemy's encrypted chatter. The evidence was damning and irrefutable. Someone with access to Thalorian military networks had coordinated this attack. Someone who wanted Jake and Titan dead and was willing to murder 200 human soldiers to make it happen. Within 3 hours, the footage was in the hands of Earth Command. Within 6 hours, it had been shared with the Galactic Council. Within 12 hours, it was everywhere. Every news network across human space ran the story. Soldier and his rescued lion targeted for assassination by alien princess. The video clips spread like wildfire through the galactic information networks. Species that had never heard of Earth or Titan suddenly couldn't stop watching. The Thalorian Empire tried to deny everything at first. They claimed the codes were stolen, the evidence fabricated, the whole thing a human conspiracy to damage their reputation. But their denials fell flat. Too many independent analysts verified the authenticity of Jake's recordings. Too many military experts confirmed that those command codes could only have come from high-ranking Thalorian officers. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Jake watched it later from his hospital bed, his arm bandaged from shrapnel wounds. Ambassador Jennifer Walsh represented Earth, and she didn't hold back. She displayed the evidence for all to see. She showed the coordinates, the timing, the tactical precision that could only come from professional military planning. The Thalorian Empire attempted to murder 200 human peacekeepers, Jennifer said, her voice echoing through the council chamber. All because one princess couldn't accept the embarrassment of her own cruelty being exposed. This is not just an attack on Earth. This is an attack on the principles this council claims to stand for. Species after species stood to condemn the Thalorian Empire. Some because they genuinely cared about justice. Others because they'd been looking for an excuse to challenge Thalorian power. Either way, the result was the same. Princess Kira was stripped of her title within 48 hours. Her personal assets were frozen. Her family, desperate to save themselves, publicly disowned her and exiled her from Thalorian space. The attempted assassination of human military personnel to recover what she'd called a discarded pet became the scandal of the decade. Earth's government withdrew all diplomatic cooperation with Thaloria. Trade agreements were suspended. Embassy staff were recalled. Other species, sensing weakness, followed Earth's lead. Within a week, the once mighty Thalorian Empire found itself isolated, its economy hemorrhaging, its reputation in ruins. All because one princess couldn't stand being reminded of her own cruelty. Jake sat in the medical bay of Outpost Sierra 3 days after the battle, getting his burns treated by a tired medic who'd been working non-stop since the attack. Across the room, Titan lay on a specially constructed oversized bed. The veterinary staff had sedated him just enough to treat his injuries, plasma burns, cuts from debris, strained muscles. But even half asleep, the lion's amber eyes tracked Jake's every movement. "He won't stop watching you," the vet said, applying synthetic skin to a particularly bad burn on Titan's side. "Even drugged, he's keeping an eye on you." "That's just Titan," Jake said softly. "He's always watching." The door to the medical bay opened and Ambassador Jennifer Walsh walked in, flanked by two officials Jake didn't recognize. She looked tired but satisfied, like someone who'd just won a very hard fight. "Sergeant Mitchell," she said. Jake tried to stand but she waved him back down. "Stay sitting. You've earned the rest." "Ma'am?" Jennifer pulled up a chair. "I've come with news. Good news for once. All charges regarding Titan have been dropped. Permanently. Furthermore, the Galactic Council has issued a universal condemnation of Princess Kira's actions and has formally affirmed your legal ownership of Titan. No one can ever challenge that again." Jake felt something loosen in his chest, a tension he'd been carrying for so long he'd forgotten it was there. "Thank you, ma'am." "Don't thank me yet. There's more." Jennifer leaned forward. "The videos of you and Titan, the battle footage, everything that happened here, it's changed things. People across the galaxy are questioning how they treat animals, how they view different species. Earth Command sees an opportunity." One of the officials spoke up, an older woman with gray hair. "We want to establish a new program. Animal-human partnership teams for military and rescue operations. We're calling it Project Titan. And we want you to lead it." Jake looked at Titan, who had perked up despite the sedatives, his ears forward and alert. "What exactly would that involve?" "Finding other animals in illegal captivity across the galaxy," Jennifer explained. "Rescuing them. Matching them with human partners who can give them the lives they deserve. Showing the galaxy that what you and Titan have isn't manipulation or mind control or whatever nonsense Princess Kira was spreading. Trust. Mutual respect. Partnership. Things some species have forgotten are even possible. We'd be helping other animals? Animals like Titan? Dozens at first. Maybe hundreds as the program grows. There are so many creatures out there suffering in cages, being used as status symbols or fighting animals or worse. We could save them. Give them freedom. Give them purpose." Jake stood carefully, mindful of his injuries, and walked over to Titan's bed. He ran his hand gently over the lion's massive head, feeling the warmth of his fur, the trust in how Titan leaned into his touch. "What do you think, boy?" Jake asked quietly. "Want to help some others like you? Show them that humans can be trusted." Titan's tail swished once against the bed. His eyes, those intelligent amber eyes that had watched Jake jump into a pool to save him, were clear and calm and full of something that looked remarkably like understanding. "I think that's a yes, ma'am," Jake said, smiling. Jennifer stood as well. "Then it's official. Welcome to Project Titan, Sergeant. You're about to change the galaxy one rescued animal at a time." As Jake looked at Titan, at the lion who'd survived abuse and drowning in war, who'd learned to trust again despite every reason not to, he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Not just for him and Titan but for all the other creatures out there waiting for someone to care. Waiting for someone to say that their lives mattered. Waiting for someone to jump into the water and pull them out no matter the cost. That was what humans did best, after all. They refused to walk away from those in need. Even when it was dangerous. Even when it was foolish. Even when the whole galaxy told them it was impossible. Especially then. "Come on, Titan," Jake said softly. "We've got work to do." The lion's rumbling purr filled the medical bay, and for the first time since the battle, Jake allowed himself to believe that everything was going to be okay. They were free. And they were going to make sure others could be free too.